All right, so just a few days ago, I got back from seeing the 2024 total solar eclipse. It was amazing. So I've thrown together a few slides here to recap the experience for you. Here you're looking at a satellite map. You can see the shadow of the moon moving across the United States. Let me just advance the slide and show you how I got into this. So the first total solar eclipse I ever saw, despite being a professional astronomer, the first one was 2017. Many Americans, that was the first one they saw. And my son and I decided to drive from North Carolina out to the middle of Tennessee. And so here we are. We went a day early, scouted out a nice field. The weather held out. It was great. Except I only packed a tent, really, and clothes, etc. But I'm in this field, and there's some other people in this field, and I'm looking around, and there's this group across the way. They have a tarp, and they have lawn chairs, and food, and coolers full of beer. It turned out it was Corona and Blue Moon, so they're really getting into it. And I figured, well, that looks great, and my planning was poor. So I'm going to cash in on my professional astronomer cred, go over, introduce myself, and see if I can get invited to hang out with them. And advance the slide. Here we are. That worked out great. There turned out to be great people. We had just a hoot talking about everything. And we have Sean here and John, who likes to go by Bubba. Okay. And we just had a great time. And, even being a scientist and knowing everything about it and all the math and geometry, actually witnessing it, particularly for the first time, I'll admit it. It's an emotional experience. It's something that I can't describe. You just have to experience it for yourself. Anyway, it was amazing. We were all amazed, and we pledged to do it again 7 years later in 2024. And in the meantime, Sean semi-retired and moved to Plano, Texas, which is in the eclipse path. So we decided we're going to go join him. And we put together our eclipse chasing team. Here we are. Sean there on the left, and me and John, Bubba. And also in the middle here, we have Calais Talk. She's one of the educators in my group. And the rest are all family members of different people here. Okay. So I got into Dallas on Saturday. Eclipse was on Monday. Got on Saturday, driving from the airport, start seeing signs like this. It's not a road sign you see every day. Solar eclipse Monday, delays possible. So I thought that was cool. Kind of my job on the team was to make final decisions about where to watch, where to go, have the best chance of not being clouded out. And, if we had to pick up and run, where we were going to go to maximize our chances of actually seeing it. Now, some are local, but some are flying in from all over the country. And so we don't want to miss it. My job was to advise on where to go. So they gave me a number of options. And you can see Dallas is right here. This is the weather map from the day before. There is this storm system, bad in southern Texas, bad up here in the Erie, Niagara Falls area. A good swath of the country has it good. New England has it good. But here we're right on the cusp. And so it was going to be iffy. You had to really watch the satellite maps and kind of game where the clouds were going, where the holes were moving, whether they were closing or staying open. Tricky. So we got together the night before, Sunday, and the local people had scouted out a couple possibilities. A state park right on the center line where you get the maximum period of totality. They also have a cousin, Jason, off in the country. It's pretty close to the center line. We thought that would be good because it wouldn't get crowded, and it'd be just us. And we wanted to be out of the city because when it happens, it gets dark. And in the city, all the streetlights turn on. And we wanted to be able to see the sky, see planets and things like that when it got dark. And looking at the satellite maps, we decided to go to Jason's place. but not before having a pre-eclipse day celebration. So it's still Sunday night. And we have the astronomy themed charcuterie, which was pretty cool. And we also made Eclipse t-shirts. And you'll see them in all the pictures. Everyone made a solar eclipse. But me, being the nerd that I am, came up with a flat Earth lunar eclipse design. Of course, there is no such thing as flat Earth. If there was, lunar eclipses would look like this. But the stencil I made is popular, and Sean used it on the back of his shirt, and me on the back of mine as a joke. And we have solar eclipses on the front. Anyway, that was fun. So we got out there early, and we have like 100% overcast skies, and everyone's looking at me, giving me the hairy eyeball for picking poorly. That it looked like we were going to be clouded out. Of course, it would still get dark, but be much better to see it. And I told him, just wait. And we waited and waited. And Jason had just put in a chicken coop. You can see it in the back there. But he didn't do a perfect job because chickens kept escaping. And so, we got to occupy our time chasing down chickens and putting them back in the coop. So that was something to do while we waited for the clouds to clear. But eventually we got desperate and asked Bubba to take out his guitar and start singing Here Comes the Sun, which he obliged. And that seemed to be what we needed, and the clouds cleared. And it was sunny, and everyone was happy. And I went from 0 to hero on deciding to stay instead of making a run for it. So, we're looking through our eclipse glasses, and we're starting to see the moon come across the face of the sun, as many in the country did. Many in the country got to see partials. And of course, the total starts out as a partial. And this lasts more than an hour. So it's a slow process, and you get to enjoy it. And there are a number of things that you could do while you're waiting. One is pinhole cameras. Get a little sheet of paper and poke a hole in it and hold it at the right distance. You can focus the sun onto a surface. We have a white sheet here. Now, instead of making pinholes, we just brought out a colander. That's an easy way to do it. It has lots of holes. You zoom in, you see all those crescents there. That's fun. If you don't have a colander, you can just take your fingers and cross them like this, making little holes, and you hold it the right distance, and you can see the crescents between my fingers. Or go stand under a tree, one with a lot of leaves. Little tiny holes between the leaves are essentially pinholes, and you get the crescents on the ground. And that's something we could do in the region of, partial eclipse as well. My colleagues brought these two. I don't know, they're leprechauns or dwarves or elves or something, but one is green and one is red. And this is for something called the Purkinje effect. And I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. I've only read it. I don't know how to pronounce it. But this is an effect. You see it probably most strongly in the final 20-some minutes. Because the human brain is used to it getting dark at a certain rate. When there's a lot of light, we use our cones. The cones see red, green, and blue. And when it's dark, we use our rods. And rods just bring in intensity, kind of without color. And the brain is used to transitioning from cone vision during the day to rod vision at night at a certain speed. And this is, of course, happening much faster. It's getting dark quicker than the brain is accustomed to. So your brain messes up the colors. The greens and blues become more vibrant, and the reds become very muted. And if you don't know about the effect, you just get this eerie sense that something's not right. You may not even be able to put your finger on it, that the colors around you are wrong. But as you get closer and closer, the colors get more wrong. And the greens get vibrant, but anything with red in it, it's turning grayish. Now, if you take a picture with the camera, it comes out normal. Like this is how it would normally look. But to our eyes then and there, it didn't look like this. And that's kind of a cool effect. It adds to the surrealness of this experience. Other things that are going on, of course, as the sun gets blocked more, it cools down. You cover up half the sun, you're covering up half the heat. So you sense heat in a linear fashion. So you can really sense the change in temperature. But the change in light level, our eyes don't work in a linear way. It works in a powers of 10 way. You don't really notice a big change until you get to like 90% coverage. And from there, you don't notice a big change until you get to 99 and then to 99.9. That's a powers of 10 scenario. So things are still kind of bright until the very end, but it's getting cooler pretty steadily throughout this process. About 20 minutes before, they tell you nature starts to react as if the day is coming to an end. They had 3 dogs running around, just busy all day, but 20 minutes before, they all went to sleep, which was pretty cool. You can see another one here behind the chairs. Just they thought it was time to go to bed. The chickens all went into the coop, like day's over. So we thought that was pretty cool. And of course, during totality, crickets came out, which is something you don't really experience if you watch in the city. Now, we weren't able to video this, but my colleague, Nick Law, he went up to Indiana, and he didn't know about this effect. I told him about it, and he videoed it. Look carefully at the pavement. You'll see these bands moving across the pavement. These are called sun snakes, and it's due to the last little bit of sun. The sun's mostly covered at this point. You're just like in the last 20 seconds or so, and 20, 40 seconds. And it's mostly covered. So you have just a pinpoint of light working its way over the surface of the moon, the mountain ranges, and it creates diffraction patterns. And have the audio off, but the video is funny because he has his son. I don't know how old his son is, like 4, 5, 6, something like that. And he's explaining the physics of diffraction to him. I love it. But he got that on video pretty good. I've never seen it on that scale. I've always seen it, well, last time I saw it on Little White Sheep. And we saw it this time on Little White Sheep, but this is a cool video. And then, of course, you have totality. And in this case, the moon was closer than normal, so you get almost the maximum. At some points along the eclipse line, you'd have 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Where we were, I think it was 4:13. If you take the radio version of Total Eclipse of the Heart, it's like the same length as the eclipse. And so you could have, we didn't do it, but you could have hit the play button at the beginning and it would end at the end. The previous one, it was shorter, like 2 minutes or something, but 4 minutes is a lengthy time to stare at this thing. Now, we didn't take any professional photography equipment. We just wanted to experience it. Didn't want to spend time working with the equipment and missing the kind of emotional experience of it. And we figured they're going to be great astrophotographers elsewhere taking pictures. This is just a quick iPhone picture. But here's a picture taken by Steve Maslin. He's an astrophotographer who's used our telescopes in Chile in the past. And I pulled this off his Facebook page. And he, of course, did a great job. What you're seeing here is Bailey's beads, the last little glimmer of sunlight between the mountains on the edge of the moon there. So you have bright, dim, bright, dim. That's the mountain range on the edge of the moon. And of course, in pink, you're seeing prominences. So this is hot gas coming off the surface, and hot gas, hot hydrogen gas, glows with a pink color, the Balmer sequence. And we noticed this one in particular, this one here, to the eye was very, very bright, particularly during the second part of the eclipse. Very bright, much brighter than you see in this picture here, at least to the eye. We didn't see it as a prominence, it was just a pink spot, but that's what it was. Here's just a textbook picture of what a prominence is. Near solar maximum, the magnetic fields poke out of the sun around sunspot groups and come back into another sunspot group. And it's magnetically confined, hot gas, primarily hydrogen gas, flowing from one to the other. It gets hot enough, these things can break open and you have a solar flare, but that's not what we were looking at. We were just looking at prominences. Here's another collection of images taken by pro or advanced amateur. I put this one up here, the one in the middle. Well, the one on the left and the right is the diamond ring effect, that last bit of light before the sun is totally gone. But the one in the middle is kind of what you're looking at the entire time. For 4 minutes, that's the amount of corona that you see. That's really thin gas, well above the chromosphere, above the prominences, thin but very hot gas. And you cover up the photosphere and most of the chromosphere, the bright part of the sun, you can now see this fainter part. And it was pretty extraordinary to see. And it's hard to describe. You see these pictures, it looks so big, but really this is very small. You got that whole big sky up there, and you look up and there's this light with that black hole in it. Well, a hole that is black. It's not like a black hole like the endpoint of stellar evolution, but it makes you think. Now, we recently got these pictures where you can see the event horizons of black holes imaged with the Event Horizon Telescope. It's kind of like you're looking at that. It's really kind of eerie and surreal. Also makes you think of the Eye of Sauron, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, just hovering up there in the sky. It's not big, it's this small thing, small, but a black dot wreathed in flame looking down upon you. It's eerie. Now, another thing that you can see, particularly on the countryside, is it gets dark enough up above, not on the horizon, get to that in a second, but up above, to see planets and stars. And this time we were treated to Jupiter and Venus, very bright, but also some stars. And I wish I'd looked it up ahead of time, but these stars over here weren't stars. They were Saturn and Mars we were looking at. I didn't bother to look it up. I'm ashamed of myself. But they were there, and there are other stars as well. This is just a snapshot from Stellarium, planetarium software. It's hard to image these with the bright corona there. But we saw them. Now, the other weird effect is the 360 degrees of twilight, because you were under a circular shadow. So off on the horizon, they're still under light. If you ever do, there's this thing where you can go see a total eclipse on a cruise. You get on a cruise ship, sail in the ocean. You can see the spot approaching across the water. It covers you, and then you can see it recede afterwards. I've never seen this. I'd like to see that effect. But basically, we're under a spot, and the horizon isn't. So it looks like twilight, but twilight is bright in one spot where the sun's going down. This is a twilight effect that wraps completely around you. So off on the side there, it's bright. It's actually not as bright as this picture indicates. It's a lot darker. When you take a picture, sometimes it adjusts the light level. But here's the same picture taken at the same time in the opposite direction. You see it's light on that side of the sky too, but it's dark overhead. You can see that by how dark the ground is, and our white sheet there is dark. Again, this lasts like over 4 minutes, and you just really soak it in, and it's exciting. And then it ends. The sun starts to emerge, and here you can still see that dark spot in the sky. That's just an iPhone photo, but there's that weirdness of there's a hole in the sky, and the surrealness of the 360-degree sunset, and the weird colors, and it's a very surreal, exciting experience. And then you get to do everything in reverse. You can see the sun snakes for 20, 40 seconds on your white sheet that you brought. The dogs wake up. Here's the third dog. The chickens come out of their coop. You can enjoy the Purkinje effect for 20 minutes or so. And just, and also pinhole camera. You can keep doing the pinhole camera stuff for like a whole hour if you want. But general excitement and celebration and planning for the next one. And actually, there's one in 2044 that will hit just a little bit of Montana, but the next big one is 2045. We've already made plans to go to Gainesville, and the older members of the group have pledged to take their vitamins. I'll be 71, but I plan to go see it. Once you start seeing these things, they're addictive, particularly if you see them with a great group of people. You just want to keep doing it whenever you can. All right, that's it for this video.